Hello and welcome back to this fourth video in my Managing Stress Q&A series. So this is a series in which I asked my email subscribers if they wanted to email into me and ask me a question about managing stress for me to answer in this series. If you are not on my email list, you can join up at aliceboys.com. You'll get like a pop-up inviting you to join up. So do that and you can reply to any of those emails and send in your question about managing stress if you have one. So I thought I would just say a little bit about how this process is going for me. So this is my fourth video in this series, and what happened is that I felt pretty confident when I sent out the emails asking for questions. So I do quite a lot of like radio interviews and that kind of thing where I have to answer questions, and I don't generally have any problem with that. And then when I got all the questions, I lost my confidence completely, and I was looking through them. Initially I was really thrilled that I got so many questions, and then I started looking through them when it came to actually like sit down and choose the first couple to answer, and I totally lost confidence. I was like, I don't think I can do this. I'm really scared. I felt really anxious. And now that I'm on the fourth day of doing them, I actually feel like a lot more confident already. Like already I'm in a little bit of a rhythm where we're picking a couple of questions to answer, and setting up the camera and answering them doesn't feel like that big of a deal. Like it feels kind of more like equal parts anxious and exciting to do. And it is a lot of fun, like probably equal parts fun and anxiety provoking. So that's been a big change even in just 4 days. And I think when you do these kinds of self experiments like the one I'm doing here, it's important to like do that reflection along the way and go, hey, like it actually only took a few days of doing it for those initial anxieties to really simmer down a lot, which feels quite incredible to me. It's still anxiety provoking, but I'm not having that really a logical fear of not being able to do it that I had before I sat down to do it the first time. So that I had like it was a genuine thought where I thought, I can't do this, like this is too hard for me, which didn't really match any evidence. Like I said, I do radio interviews and things, and I don't usually go blank or anything like that during those. I stumble over my words, like I do a lot of ums and that kind of thing, which I don't like, but I don't generally go blank or have nothing to say. And I've been writing about these topics for years and years and years, so there was no evidence that I wouldn't be able to answer the questions, but the thought I can't do this felt totally real at the time. What helped change the thinking was actually just like getting on and doing it. That was what helped the most for changing the thinking. And I'm sure my confidence will continue to like go up and down, but it feels a lot more manageable at the moment. So if you've got something similar where you need to get over a hang up or get over something that you're anxious or insecure about, then hopefully that you can use this example of me doing it as a bit of motivation and instruction, I guess, for how you might go about it for yourself. All right, long-winded, right? Eventually I'm going to work on being less long-winded, but that's a little bit down on my priority list at the moment. So just doing my best. Right, so let's take a couple of questions today. You might notice that I am doing this a little bit later. I've had a busy Monday, so I'm doing this a little bit later today, and the light has changed a bit compared with when I usually do it a little bit earlier in the morning, so hopefully that's okay. Alright, so this is a question from Jeff. Hi Dr. Boys, thanks so much for all that you do. I've learned a lot about myself from reading your articles. That is lovely. Certainly like it helps my confidence when people say that, and like the emails, it really is very useful to have that. The thing with writing articles is like I get these huge viewer or reader numbers, but that doesn't resonate nearly as much as when some actual human comes out and says that they got something out of reading it. So yeah, I really appreciate it when people say things like that. My question regarding stress management: many times I do not realize that I'm under stress until too late. I overreact, make a poor decision, maybe etc. Maybe I'm so accustomed to being under stress that it feels normal to me. What steps can be done to raise awareness of stress on a day-to-day basis? Okay, so one idea is to become a bit more aware of how you hold stress in your body. So there are typical ways that we hold stress in our body. So one is like where you have your shoulders up like that, or you might have kind of clenched fists, like you're ready to punch somebody, or just kind of in your jaw can be where you hold stress. So what I would be inclined to do for this is to try becoming more aware of that. And maybe what you do is something like every time you go to the bathroom during the day, when you sit down to go to the bathroom, or you like enter the bathroom, because he's a guy, so maybe he's not sitting down to go to the bathroom all the time, but whatever. So that you do like a few slow breaths, like just let's say just six slow breaths in and out. Mostly concentrating on your out breath, so making your out breath slow. And when you do a slow out breath, your breath in will naturally be slower, but people usually find it less anxiety provoking to concentrate on a slow breath out. So just paying attention to like when you've got all of the breath out. So a lot of times we sort of, when we're breathing, we don't really breathe all of the air out before we start on the breath in. So doing like six breaths out, in and out, and see how easy that is for you. Like see whether it's easy for you to slow down and do that, or whether when you try and do that it just makes you feel kind of frantic, like whether you're so distracted and hyped up that it's actually difficult to slow down. So if you're not overly stressed, it'll be relatively easy to do that slowing down. If you are overly stressed, it'll be much harder, right? So that would be something that you do. If that doesn't appeal, then maybe what you do is do a quick body scan. So pick 4 places in your body where you think that you tend to hold tension, and go through and just like either just relax those. Like for me, it might be putting my shoulders down and making my mouth relax. So you might do the like what singers do to kind of relax those muscles in your mouth. And again, you could use that as a way of testing how stressed you are, because if it's hard to do that, if it's hard to slow down and relax, if you feel like you're really fighting against doing that, then you're holding a lot of tension. And when you do that, you will become more aware in various situations when you're holding tension in your body. So let's say you do that, like softening out about 4 different body parts wherever you think that you hold your stress. Then if you do that quite a few times in the day for a few weeks, 3 or 4 weeks or something like that, you will become much more aware of when you're holding tension in your body. So like if you're sitting in a meeting, or you're on a phone call, or you're in a situation where you're getting stressed and maybe you don't really realize it, you'll start to notice when you've tensed up different places. You can also do like, if it's easier, you can tense and relax to help you learn that contrast a wee bit more. So you might if it's hard for you to just relax your hand, then you might first exaggerate it, make it extra tense, and then relax it and feel the contrast between those two. So you need to find something in your day that you can link that to. So going to the bathroom is one. If you have if your day is structured in terms of like hours, like you tend to switch activities, like go to a different meeting or whatever it is on the hour, then you might build that in like the last 10 minutes of each hour or the last 5 minutes of each hour to do that. So, but try and do a period of a few weeks where you have like at least 4 times in the day you practice noticing where you're holding stress in your body, or you practice the slow breathing and see what information that gives you about how hard you're finding it to let go of any stress that you're holding. So yeah, that's one. I've already answered a question a little bit similar to this in one of the other videos, but that wasn't a tip that I gave at the time. And that's just also just showing you there are like, with every question that I get here, there's like at least 6 different ways that I could answer it. So if an answer isn't quite the right answer for you, don't think that, there's no answer to the question. I'm just giving one of the answers that I think of just on the day that I read the particular question. But that's something that you can try. And hopefully in going through questions that are similar but a wee bit different, then I managed to tell you a bunch of different potential answers to the question. Each time I'll try and give answers that are a little bit different than the answers I've given before. Alright, so I think we're just going to do one other one for today. Alright, so let's look at this one. My name is Alex. I live in the UK. I am a mum that is currently starting an online business. I also have a job, and I am the sole carer of an elderly dependent who lives in another country that is going through a humanitarian crisis. There are other major things too, and long story short, life right now feels pretty overwhelming. I've learned a lot of CBT tools throughout the years, and they have been a lifeline, but there is one thing that when it comes to stress management I really struggle with. So CBT tools are cognitive behavioral therapy tools. So those are the kinds of tools that I wrote about in for example, the anxiety toolkit, or a lot of my anxiety articles have CBT tools in them. And cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the most well studied therapies for common problems like depression and anxiety. Alright, so, and they do work well, but they are not the be all and end all, right? So they're a good base to have in terms of understanding your own thinking and behavior and feelings. But there's definitely extra stuff that you can learn. So there's another sort of group of therapies that are called acceptance and commitment therapy, or they're in the family of acceptance and commitment therapy. And those offer like quite a different perspective, and there are lots of tools and techniques within those therapies that you can also try to as an adjunct to CBT, and lots of others that don't fit into either of those categories. Alright, so the thing that she really struggles with, let's get to that. Okay. There's one thing that when it comes to stress management I really struggle with, that is switching off and on quicker. With so little time to have downtime, I need to be able to disconnect from work and responsibility faster than I do. When I go to bed or when I'm not working, my brain is still on overdrive and I get little emotional rest or enjoyment. Although I know in theory that resting can help me be more productive, there is a sense that in order to be successful I need to be in overdrive and stressed all the time, and I think that has something that maybe has to do with it. Right, okay. So what I would say is that for people that have trouble letting go and winding down and relaxing, like their brain is always on, there are a few different ways to approach it. One is to make sure that you are having time in the day where you're okay with intrusive thoughts about work, right? Where you have some, like a walk that you go on, or it might be during your commute home in the car, or those kinds of things where you are okay with your brain going into the default mode, right? So the default mode is the mode that our brain goes into when we're not actively focusing and concentrating on something. And that mode helps us make sense of things that are happening in our lives, and it helps us sort of weave the story of our lives together. So you want to make sure that you have time in the day where you're open to thoughts about what's going on for you at work and intruding into downtime, right? That you're open to times where maybe you they call it problem solving pondering. So we are open to pondering problems that have come up in the workday. Because if you don't, that brain mode is an important brain mode that we have available to us for solving problems. Okay, so some people get into rumination, which is often not that useful for solving problems. So when you're really beating yourself up about how you've handled something or how something has gone, but just sort of overthinking and whirring along, working through problems can be quite useful, right? So you want to make sure that you've got some of that time in your day that is in a different way. It's as valuable as the focus time that you spend concentrating and working and like really with blinkers on, trying to sit down and do specific work, right? You want to have time where you let your mind wander to work topics. So make sure that you have some of that time. Like, don't think that all your work time should be focused and concentrating. It should also be some time in that default mode where you let yourself do problem solving, pondering, and you let yourself make cognitive and emotional sense of things that are going on. Like sometimes your mind might end up drifting to prioritizing or anything, right? So make sure you have that time. Make sure you're not expecting yourself to be able to switch off from work without also having some building that in as part of work. So it's not an extra to work, it's part of, so see it as part of work, that you have mind wandering time that is for work. So the other part of that is that habits work a certain way, right? So habits reduce the self-control needed to do something. And that applies whether the habit is of focusing or whether the habit is of relaxing. So the more you have habits of relaxing and disconnecting, the easier that your brain will find it to do that. So you need to build those habits, right? And you want to build habits of times where you're open to work thoughts intruding and times when you're not. And those should be quite distinct from another. So maybe you're open to work thoughts intruding while you are on a walk or while you're making dinner or something like that, but you're not open to them intruding when you're like having a bath with your child or like playing a game of catching a ball with your child or something like that. Or maybe you're open to those kinds of thoughts when you go for a walk around when you go for a walk around a park at lunchtime, but not when you're doing other types of exercise in after work that you're doing in some other location, right? So make the cues different. So you wouldn't want to say, oh, I'm open to work thoughts when I go for a walk around a park some days but not other days, right? Decide which cues you want to associate with which mode of thinking. And you might need to do a bit of experimentation to see what you find easiest at the moment, right? So do a week or two of self-observation, a couple of weeks of self-observation, where you notice when you manage to switch off from work, and then extrapolate on that a little bit more to turn those times into habits. So if you notice that when you're chopping vegetables as something that you find quite meditative or something like that, and that you find that you switch off from work when you're you're doing that. Like, so create a habit around that. So those would be things that I would start with. Definitely a lot of self-observation to find out what you're already quite good at, because there will be little nuggets in there of sort of habits that you have already that you can build on. And just know that, like, it will take a while. Like, if you designate something as a time where you don't want to be thinking about work as much, for a start, make sure that that's something where that works okay already. Like, don't pick a way that that at the moment you find as a time where you have a lot of work thoughts. Pick something where that is already something that works fairly well for you. But recognize that it will take a while for your brain to click into that being a new habit. And so make sure you do the habit at the same time and in the same way. Like, it should be in the same part of your day. You know, it doesn't matter if it's like half an hour later or half an hour earlier. It just needs to be kind of in the same sequence in your day, right? So you don't just think, gosh, I'm supposed to go for my walk at like 1 o'clock or something, and I'm running half an hour late for that because the workday got all got all frantic. You can just, as long as it's like, you know, after you've done your morning work session, then you go for that walk type thing, then that's fine. And it will take a while for your brain to learn the new habit. The other thing you could do is have some signals that you know work for you. So maybe you need to listen to a podcast or something like that. Like, maybe you need to do something to transition, that you can't go straight from thinking about work to allowing yourself that mental downtime without a bit of a bridge. So a podcast can be something that, like, it's engaging your brain, so you're going to be doing less of that overthinking because your brain is engaged. But you don't want to have that be like a crutch that you have to use all the time. So you don't want to have entertainment to fill up your brain so that your brain doesn't drift off to work topics. But you can use that as kind of a bridge. And I think there's like a while back, there was some articles that I read to do with like people's new work from home life with coronavirus, and the articles were saying that people when they work in an office usually have some sort of going home from work routine that helps them shut off from work for the day and transition into home life. And saying that, you know, during coronavirus with work from home, people don't have that separation as much. They don't have that routine that helps them transition from one part of their day to another. And they were saying that in German there's some sort of word for that routine. And I think it was kind of associated with like having a beer at the end of the day or something. But you might be able to Google around to find those articles. But have some sort of routine for not just the end of the workday, but also for your breaks during the workday. So I do two main work sessions in the day, and I have a routine for the end of the workday, and I have a routine for the gap between my first session and the other, and I have a big kind of gap in the middle of the day. So you'll probably need something like that. The other thing is that it won't necessarily work to have the same thing all the time. So I have a summer routine where I go for a swim with my child after my morning work session, right? And that's a really good break because I can't take the computer to the pool, right? So I'm away from cues, and often like we've got this big yellow duck, inflatable duck, and I sort of like float around on it. And that's obviously a routine that's for summer. So you might need like seasonal routines, or you might need routines for different days of the week. So personally, I'm someone that I don't mind a lot of like intrusive work thinking during the week, but I like to be really disconnected from work over the weekend, and that's a balance that works really well for me. I tend to really shut off from any type of work over the weekend. I might do a little bit like at the end of a Sunday, especially if I've sort of like started my weekend early, like I've sort of started the weekend on the Friday, then I might do a little bit to prepare for the week on a Sunday, or if I've just got stuff due and I don't want a super busy Monday, but I have like a good day and a half that is fully disconnected from work, and then I don't mind so much little bits and pieces of work like in the evenings and that kind of thing, and that balance actually works really well for me. It might not work for other people, but it works pretty well for me. I do still have time in the work week, in the weekdays that are where I've got habits of being switched off from work. Yeah, so those are the things that I would try, and recognizing that you might need something for different days of the week. Like Mondays are always a really busy day for me. So Mondays are like where I'm re-engaging my brain from being switched off. Like this, I've often got this really big list of little jobs on a Monday. It's not necessarily all jobs that take 2 hours, but there'll be a lot of like 10 and 15 minute things that I want to kind of power through on a Monday, and there'll also be a lot of stuff that tends to come in on a Monday. I feel like I get a lot of small jobs added to my plate at the beginning of the week. So you might need different, if you've got a certain rhythm to your week that's like that, you might need different strategies for switching off on different days. So again, it's like it's really a self-observation of finding like what are the types of activities where you do find it easy to switch off. Like might be having a bath, it could be doing something active, it could be where you're certain kinds of physical exercise you find it easier to switch off than others. But know what's true for you now, and then build those up rather than just going from scratch and thinking that you can turn any activity into an activity that is switched off for you. Start with what you already know about yourself. All right, long-winded answers. I'm keeping up my tradition here, but that is it for today, and I will see you guys again tomorrow with some new answers. Please like the video with the thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe if you'd like to subscribe, and please send in your question. If you've already sent in a question, like, you're welcome to send in another one. I'm not going to be like keeping track or anything like that, but yeah, bear with me that it will take me a while to get through all of these, but I'm enjoying doing it, even though it's a little bit nerve-wracking, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it too. See ya, have a good day.